Okay, about visualization of renderings. So first, when you have a scene in whatever 3D program, let me change the shading to wireframe unshaded, so you can actually see the geometry better. So that's my form looks like right now. So before I do any rendering, I want to set the really simple material to these two objects. So first thing I want to do is I will do a special material in Maya, which can support the ambient occlusion. Right. So in Maya, the hypershade is actually the material editor. You can easily open up, you can manipulate the shaders. In Maya, shader means material. Okay. So I will open this window. It's right there. And then you can see many different type of materials. It's basically grouped into two groups, Maya and Mental Ray. Usually I will change. Wait a second. I think the resolution is very high. Let me check resolution really quick. Yeah, I think that's okay. All right, so let's keep this resolution. All right, so first thing I will do is I will apply a special material for this geometry. So I will go to Maya first. I will use surface shader as a material. So I will use middle button, drag and drop. Here we go, surface shader. It looks like a black circle. That's okay. Then I'm going to Mental Ray, and I will click texture. So you can see there's a lot of textures you can apply. It's actually a really complex library. It's much powerful than Revit, I can tell you. So right now I'm going to use this special material, the texture. The name is ambient occlusion. Okay, MIB means Mental Ray library. So I will use middle button again, drag and drop. Okay, so this guy is right there. All right, so this is ambient occlusion, and then I use middle button, drag and drop, connect as a default. So basically I build up the relation between the texture and the surface shader. Then I'm going to select all the geometries on the scene, and then right click this shader, apply material to the selection. Right click, apply that. That's it. So what you end up with is this kind of black color material. If I render right now, let's do a render, see what happened. Make sure you set the rendering settings. So this is a button. You open up the render settings. I will set the rendering engine to Mental Ray. Okay. Right, and then I will close it and then render this. See what happened. Yeah, you got all the colors, right? So the question is, we don't really have any lighting. Where does this color come from? This is actually going back to the idea of this ambient occlusion, right? It's based on the geometric relationship. It's not really based on actual lighting. There are a couple of problems. Number one, I see the color looks very low quality, pixelized. Did you see that? Right. Yeah. Number two, the background is kind of black. It doesn't really match with this kind of neutral lighting condition. So let me do two things to correct. First, about the background color. If you open outliner of the project, this is the camera, right? Control A, you can open the attribute panel of the camera. You should see there is a feature here, environment. By default, the background is black. Right, so I will change that to white. This is really easy to do. Then I will just re-render. It should give me the white background. Not a big deal. Right? But again, this still looks like pixelized. So I will do another thing to enhance the quality. So if I go back to my Hypershade window, which if you close, you can reopen that from here, right? Hypershade. You see the network of this shader is built. This is the shader, this is the texture, right? So if you click the texture, you can see in the Hypershade window, in the property window, you can use Control A again to open that. It has a value named the samples. By default, it's very low, 16, right? So that means it only calculates 16 times per pixel to gather the information. So I will bouncing up this to, let's do a 64. Oh, not that high. 64 is about 4 times higher, okay? And then let's render this one more time. It will take a longer time for rendering for sure, but the quality is better. Can you see that? Yes.
So which one is better to do like ambient occlusion? Is it like nice or Maya?
There's no difference.
Same quality?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no much difference about Max and Maya to handle this calculation. The only difference is about interface. But as long as you understand, there's no any difference. Yeah. There's another thing. I mean, besides the samples, I think it will increase the rendering time. Just be aware. I would just 128, even higher than that. Okay. At the same time, I know the quality is also controlled by the resolution, right? That's a typical for Revit, for whatever software. You know, the higher quality, the more pixels you have, it looks better, right? Exactly the same. So here in the render settings, I'm going to change the resolution to a little bit higher one. Right now it's only 6040. So let's do this, just double this. Okay, it's not that high, but no, it's better. I will also go to the quality. This is the tag. I can switch the draft quality to production. Right, so what happened is there is a group of settings will be adjusted with the preset, including the anti-aliasing, which control how it handles this kind of diagonal lines. And there's a lot of other things going on. So usually I will just switch the quality to production. It gives me a pretty good result. So refresh. Number 1, resolution. Number 2, quality, right? To production quality, right? Number 3 is in this sample parameters of your ambient occlusion texture bouncing up this value from default 16 to something like this. So now let me do another rendering. Let's see how long it takes. Right, you do feel is kind of slowed down, right? But compare with other lighting-based renderings like global illumination, which is much slower than this. Again, here is still very fast in the standard of lighting rendering. Okay, so you see these really nice details come out. So usually I will do this ambient occlusion as the first pass, just to kind of build up my tones, my values. It's like when you do the marker or the painting, you do want to have something like as a background, right? Just to set up these shading areas, this shape, the rough shape of the geometries. So you want to do that exactly the same here, ambient occlusion. All right, this weight is almost there. Oh, by the way, production quality means it will turn on the reflection. So later I will apply something reflective. You will see it will calculate reflections very quickly. All right, that part looks actually not too bad. Go ahead.
On the settings, it's currently set at 70 feet. Yeah. If you change that to 200, would that change this at all?
No, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Right, the 72 dpi means dot per inch, right? if you multiply that number with how many inches
Mm.
for the image you want to print, you got total number of pixels, right? So what we did is directly manipulate how many pixels. So it's the same thing. You know, if you're bouncing up that value, you have to increase the image size, you know, from 2 inches to 5 inches. You multiply that number, you get a total number of pixels. Yeah, no much difference. Any other questions when we read the rendering? Keep in mind, this rendering doesn't give you any values of color, lighting, or material. It's kind of purely neutral geometric shape. Actually, I like this style a lot. I think it's actually tell your design better sometimes. I don't like, you know, in some typical Revit rendering, have the bricks, CMU blocks, which is fun, but doesn't really tell you much information. And this one tell you a lot about your design, you know, what the shape looks like, spatial quality. If I do a 1-by-1 display, you can see it's actually pretty big, you know, it's very sharp. So I will save the file, save image. Again, I'm going to save this as alpha channel supported. So TIFF, right? Support alpha channel. I will do that. The file is bigger than JPEG, but it's always much better quality. So I will give this name ambient occlusion or whatever. So save the file.
Is it the same thing as PNG?
PNG is fine. Yes, PNG has alpha channel as well. Okay, so we have the file saved right here. Yeah, it's right there. Okay, so that's good. You can tell if I switch the channel to alpha, you can see the alpha channel right there. Okay. All right, then I will do another rendering to show the actual shadows reflections. Here's what I will do first. You know, I have a camera, right? I will select my camera and then use S to keyframe the position. It's very tricky, actually. If you don't do that by accident, you will move the camera around, right? If you do another rendering, it does not match. This could be a problem. So how do you know exactly the location of your camera? You could do that is by create additional cameras. You know, Maya can do that. You can create multiple. But usually I will just like using the default. So I will use as keyframe. You know, this is the red color keyframe bar here, right? So that means if I rewind my timeline to frame 1, I guaranteed I got this exactly the same location. That's really convenient. So for the second rendering, I'm going to set up some basic lighting for this guy. So I will just do, first I will go back to my Hypershade. Because I know I'm going to render something reflective, like metal, mirror, shining surface. If you want to do that, I will go with a Bling. Bling shader is a special shader for that. I will select maybe this 3, right-click the Bling shader, and then assign that. So they have reflections. I will click this Bling shader, and I will give a little bit color. I think maybe I want to have this, I don't know, maybe some purple color here. That's fine. All right, so that's the color I have from the material. Also, I want to set up a lighting, correct? So I will do a lighting. Go back to render settings. I'm going to indirect lighting. I'm going to create a sunlight and a sky. This has been covered in other tutorials, so I don't really want to, talk in detail. It's pretty much the same as Revit. Just one click, you got the sun and the sky. So where is the sun? If you look at Outliner, it should give you this sunlight. Okay. which could be tiny. You can scale up or move that around. You can see it. Okay, so this is automatically constructed by the skylight or the sunlight. So let's see, I want this light be this direction. Okay, so go back to the first frame and I will do the rendering. So we got the reflection material, we got lighting, right? So let's do the rendering, see. So this time you should see reflections on the ground. Can you see that? Right? It's right there. Pretty good, right? So we'll wait. So this is nothing new compared with Mental Ray, Revit, or 3ds Max. If you use Rhino, I think they have V-Ray. It's very, very similar, like this. So we got this in Mental Ray. If you like other styles, like the software renderings rather than Mental Ray, is okay. You need to watch my other tutorials. If you don't want to use Mental Ray as a rendering engine, you can set up other like Spotlight. You can set up the point light. You can have other manipulations. No much difference. You also notice this is a multi-pass rendering, so start with a low resolution, then is we render up. If you have multiple paths, it gives you a better quality. So I will save this image again. Save image as TIFF, right? I will give this guy name is Mental Ray, since it's a Mental Ray style. Okay, so right now I have 2 layers, right? You should also think about other lighting conditions. Sometimes I wanna the lighting be 90 effects. So in this case, I wanna change my rotation. If the sunlight is rotated this way, the mind is smart enough to understand you want something like after the sunset, right? In this case, I need to set up artificial light. Otherwise, it will be purely black. So let's set up a point light. Put a point light right there. Probably in the corner. Okay. And I give this point light some color, maybe yellow. Doesn't matter actually. All right. So I have this new point light. Then I render this again. Because the sunlight is gone, right? The whole environment is very dark. The only lighting resources come from this single yellow light. So you could imagine it gives you a very different flavor, very different style. Right? But they exactly match the same perspective of the camera. So if you consider your rendering, you want to show some lighting bleed right from the indoor, this could be a quick way. You just put the light inside your, this kind of mesh. You can see the lighting come out. And also the shadow here is kind of interesting. Okay, let's wait that. You see the environment is getting dark, right? Okay, it's being refined. So if you imagine, if you put the light inside the sphere, the shadow of this skin, right, will be quite interesting. You could see the patterns on the ground, for sure. All right, so we're pretty happy with that. I will save this guy again as another image. I'll give this name as a night. Yeah, let's just using these 3 images today. In the future, I will show you other rendering styles like wireframe, maybe next class. So now let's just open Photoshop to quickly blend these three images together, right? Oh, by the way, if you want to look at the wireframe rendering earlier, I think I have a tutorial somewhere in my website. It covered how to do rendering with Maya vector rendering. Okay, so you should watch that one. It gives you the Illustrator file at the end. It's a vector format rendering. It's wireframe. All right, so look at this one will be helpful. All right, anyway, I'm going to open this three in Photoshop. I'm going to use this guy as a base, right? So you could actually just quickly compile them together. So this guy, drag it there, close it. This guy, drag it, close it. All right, so I have three layers. I want to make ambient occlusion on the top. I will change the blending to multiply. Does everybody understand what this means, multiply? This is about how you calculate the pixel values across multiple layers. By default, it's a normal. That means the layer on above will block whatever the pixel underneath. But if you do a normal, it has some mathematical relationship. I mean, if you do the multiply, it will calculate both. Right, so usually, this gives me a much better. Now, this is the original. This is multiplied with ambient occlusion. It's pretty cool, right? You see this immediately gives you the much better this kind of quality to understand the space. The nice thing about this is you also have this transparency. If you think, well, it's too strong, you can definitely switch the values. And sometimes I will play the multiply. Multiply is good, but sometimes if you switch a different way to blend, you could get something kind of surprise you sometimes. So there's many different ways you can blend them. Let's stay with multiply. Right. And then the next one is about this night effects. Usually I will do this soft light. Well, maybe not soft light. Let's do the hard light. Okay. Hard light works pretty well if you want to do the night effects. Without with. Okay. If you think, well, too strong, I can control the opacity a little bit. All right, so you got a really nice rendering with both daylighting, evening light. You have this ambient occlusion as a way to reinforce, right, the quality.
Can you quickly go over the alpha channel?
The alpha channel. That's a good question. The alpha channel is available here. Go to select, load selection. You can see there is an alpha 1 as option. Click OK. You can actually see the alpha channel right there. The way you can use it, there are many ways you can use it actually. The quick way, let me find another image. For example, the background, let's do a sky. Blue sky, whatever shape is. I will just copy that, copy the image, and then I will go here, right? I will paste the image. Okay, so have the sky. Apparently the sky is kind of floating. So to make the sky in the background, I can drag it on the background. So let me turn off other layers. So in layer 2, if you go to select, load selection, right? You can load the alpha. Right, so this is the alpha channel of this one. So if I do the select inverse, right? I can inverse to the sky. Then I can delete. So see the blue sky. See that? I can maybe make the blue sky higher. You can see right there. Okay. You should do the same to all the layers. I think they all have exactly the same alpha channel, right? So just repeat this. Select, load selection, alpha 1. Well, this one doesn't have. Let's see this one. Okay. Anyway, they're all the same, so select inverse, delete, delete. Here we go. So I delete the background for all the layers. That's it. All right, any other questions? Yeah, I think the background, this sky is too blue. Usually I will just reduce the saturation. Personally, I don't really like anything highly saturated. It just looks a little bit too cartoonish. You know, so this is the default. I will reduce the saturation of the sky. Usually I will do a little bit color adjustment with color balance as well. If your rendering is very red, orange, I will make the sky kind of match with that kind of tone. You could do the same just by change the renderings to make rendering match with the sky. Either way, you know, you want them be kind of in the same kind of closed color tone. Okay, any other questions you wanted me to show you to cover? Good. All right. So let me stop the video.